Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody, welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our TNA show for the week. Let's jump right into it. First off, we're going to go into the so-so portions of the show. The stuff that was okay, not good, not great. Really the unmemorable portion. The first thing is I'm sorry. Let's rewind that, start it over. The first thing is the promo with Dixie Carter, AJ Styles, and Magnus. I thought it was okay. Set up the whole night. However, what happened in the main event kind of soured me on this. So, hindsight, it was worse than what it was on TV. I thought it was an okay segment. Not bad, not great. Basically tells us what's going on. But speaking of bad, let's go right into the bad. First off, the Samoa Joe versus Ethan Carter III schmaz. I understand the theme of the show was screwing over AJ's friends so they couldn't help him later on. However, it just wasn't entertaining to me. It didn't click, I guess you could say. To me, it felt like a waste of time. It felt like a waste of a future potential match. And I know that, they're not going to go back to this, but what if the first time that Samoa Joe and Ethan Carter III met was of real meaning? Was really the guy that had the longest undefeated streak, Samoa Joe, against Ethan Carter III, who builds up an impressive undefeated streak too, and it really had meaning behind it, instead of this throwaway schmaz. My brain thinking ahead, and I just didn't like the whole thing. To me, it was bad. But it is what it is, I guess. Now, next up, we had the second half of the two cage matches. The first half we'll talk about a little bit later in the good segment, but this one fell in the bad segment. And really strange that it would. But I'll have some explanations for that. Robert Roode, Bobby Roode versus Sting in the cage. Again, they're trying to get rid of Sting so he can't help AJ Styles later. To me, there were a lot of reasons, and Roode picks up the win after a little bit of outside interference. Not a terrible match. It's as good as Sting is going to give at this point, and that's not a knock on Sting at all. Sting is an absolute legend of the business, but he's well past his prime. The thing that I did not like about this at all, next week we're going to have Bobby Roode versus Kurt Angle's steel cage match in something that's built up and needs a steel cage match. This wasn't built. There's no reason for these two to be in a cage. It devalues the purpose of the cage next week. We're going to see two cage matches this week, but you're telling me that the cage match next week is special, and I'll explain later when I get into the good segment why the other cage match went into the good and this one went into the bad. However, these guys, storyline-wise, have no reason to be in the cage together. There's no real heat or animosity between the two. Nothing deserving of a cage match other than Dixie wants to screw Sting. But, I don't know. To me, much like the Joe versus Ethan Carter III match, it was a foul ball to me. They swung and they hit it, but it didn't go up for a home run. Speaking of these guys, and they're all involved in the main event, AJ Styles versus Magnus, the main event. Magnus picks up the win after Rockstar Spud, Ethan Carter III, Bad Influence, Bromance, and Bobby Roode all interfere. Sting trying to help AJ out. This was a complete clusterfuck bullshit match. There was no level of entertainment to it. It was so bad. And I've seen the opposite side of the coin. There's two sides of the coin on this, and I've seen it on the internet that some people really did like this because it was all part of one storyline. We're not going to let AJ Styles leave with the belt storyline. I get that. And yes, it made sense in that storyline. However, it doesn't mean that it wasn't bullshit, and it didn't suck, and it didn't take away what could have been a really special and good match between AJ Styles and Magnus. First thing, they didn't need to start the interference from the time the bell started. They could have held that off to the end. Could have had it seen as a competitive match until the interference came. Secondly, the number of people interfering puts AJ on a pedestal where the guy that's not with your company anymore, it took half the roster to take him out. Thirdly, they set up with the way that Bobby Roode interfered, they set up Roode as bigger and better than their world champion Magnus, and also as a possible future opponent for AJ Styles, which he still may be. At this point, though, AJ's not signed to the company. Now, 2 months down the road, he comes back. You got a built-in feud. But at this point, we're going to treat it like AJ's gone, and he's going to be gone. And if you believe the rumors, which some I do, some I don't, AJ's either never coming back, AJ's might be still trying to work on a contract with them. As with everything in wrestling, we never say never. But to me, it seems that AJ's leaning towards the I'm not going back to TNA route. So you left that open. You left with AJ looking a bit stronger than your world champion. You left with Bobby Roode looking a little stronger than the world champion. And that's where, to me, it put this into the bad category. The whole match itself was bad. It was terrible. The only things I really liked, and I'll speak about part of that later, is the Bromans, the tag team champions, actually being booked strong and being part of this corporation or whatever you want to call it. But the match itself was terrible. And I really wish it would have been better. I really do. To me, it is what it is. I just wish that they could have given us a better match with better psychology to it. Now, coming off of that, before we go into the good, we're going to go into our question of the week. Last week's question is, would TNA be better served going with one person as the head of the company, as the focal point, a la John Cena, a la Hulk Hogan, a la Sting, or as a group, a la, much like when Paul Heyman booked SmackDown or Paul Heyman in ECW, or several other companies have used as well. My opinion on the matter is, I understand the one person for marketing reasoning. You know, you want that one guy that does Regis and Kelly, or, I'm sorry, Michael Strahan and Kelly now, or does the Conan O'Brien show, or, you know, goes on Larry King, or does all your appearances. However, as a wrestling fan, I prefer when there's interchangeable main eventers. The most popular is the SmackDown 6, which, if you guys don't remember, when Paul Heyman booked SmackDown, he took a group of 6 guys. I believe it was Edge, Mysterio, Benoit, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, and I forget who else it was. But basically, the whole show was centered around these 6 guys. I think Big Show was the 6th. And you could interchange them. You know, every show had a different main event, had a different star, and it kept it interesting, and it didn't get stale, it didn't get overhyped. Much like ECW back in the day. There was no one guy. Yes, Shane Douglas was the champion, but one of the main storylines were Raven versus Dreamer. When Raven was champion, you had Shane Douglas in the triple threat story, Sandman, Sabu, you know, all these guys would all be in the main event, whether they were champion or not, and it sold more the ECW as a brand than selling one particular guy as a brand. Much like WWE, they use Cena as his own brand. Cena's the guy. However, WWE is the brand. I think TNA would be better suited to use the group mentality, promote TNA, not necessarily promote one guy. But that's just my opinion, my personal preferences on what I like in wrestling. Now, coming off of that, we've seen a lot of guys leaving TNA. AJ Styles being one of them, Devon Dudley recently, you know, Matt Morgan, some others. The question of the week for this week is, do you think TNA has brought in enough new talent to replace the leaving talent, or the guys that have already gone? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down there in the comments. Now we're going to get right into the good segment, the stuff that I actually liked on the show. First thing was Joseph Park and Eric Young versus the Bromance. I enjoyed it. I know I talked about some of the elements earlier with the ODB and Lady Tapa thing, distracted Eric Young and bringing him from that so they could divide and conquer two of AJ's friends. However, this is why I really liked it. The Bromance have been your tag team champions for a couple months now. They've not yet been booked strongly. Them being involved with the Dixie Carter group, the top heel faction, I guess you would say now, is going to elevate them and make them a more relevant tag team champions, which I enjoy. I think they're decent. As you'll see later when we talk about our ratings, I didn't think highly of Jesse Goddard's when I made our rating system, but he's getting him better, and I think this tag team and the tag team championship being elevated is what made me enjoy this match. The Bromance pick up the win. Afterwards, they dump Joseph Park on a guardrail, which gives him, I guess, a concussion. I thought they were going to do that and he was going to turn into Abyss, and then Abyss would come out later. But anyway, reason I enjoyed it is that they set up the tag team champions to actually be an integral part of the show. Now, coming off of that, we had the confrontation with Storm and Gunner, basically setting up a ladder match at Genesis with the title shot on the line that Gunner has in the briefcase. I've said it before and I've said it again, I might be beating a dead horse now. For the last few weeks, the James Storm and Gunner interaction has been the best stuff on TNA, on their show. James Storm has taken Gunner and has elevated him into a main event player. Now, a lot of that's Gunner too. Gunner has worked his ass off to get there. But James Storm has put that credibility and that style and that believability into Gunner and making him someone that we could actually count on as being a main event caliber talent. Kudos to both of them. I'm loving everything about that feud. I can't wait for the payoff match. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to do Gunner well to build him as a future World Heavyweight Champion. James Storm's someone I think they should have kept the belt on for a longer amount of time when they did give it to him. I think he's absolutely one of the guys they should build the company around. He's been there since the beginning, and he's always been a solid entertainer. He's great on the mic. He's great with the promos. He's great with the fans. He's great in the ring. I really like what they're using, how they're using him to help Gunner get to that next level, and I really enjoy James Storm as well. So this is, to me, the best thing they're doing on TNA is these guys' interaction. Now, coming off of that, we talked earlier about the second of the two cage matches. Let's talk about the first. The first was a Kurt Angle Open Challenge cage match. Now, where this differs from the Rude vs. Sting as to why I enjoyed this and not, is Bobby Roode came out and put his friend's bad influence in the cage. Now, earlier you remember me saying that Sting and Rude had no interaction. It causes no storyline purpose other than to screw Sting. Kurt Angle is facing Bobby Roode next week in a cage. Makes sense that Bobby's partners in ego would try to take out Kurt Angle before that time. This harkens back to the days of the Four Horsemen, where someone like Dusty Rhodes would be challenging Ric Flair, and Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, or Arn Anderson and Ole Anderson, or whatever pair you want to say, would come out and they would try and stop the guy that was going to face the main guy the next time. And that's what this was. And it was a decent match. I mean, Angle picked up the win. I really thought it helped further the Kurt Angle, Bobby Roode storyline. Another great feud they got going on. The two best feuds in TNA, Storm and Gunner, Bobby Roode and Kurt Angle. Again, I'm looking forward to Kurt Angle and Bobby Roode, and this match helped further that storyline where earlier you put Roode in something that he wasn't involved in, got him going into a different storyline, which is why I didn't enjoy that, and why I do enjoy this is it moves this storyline further. Now, last but not least, was a segment in the church. I think it was the same church they used to bury Bully Ray a couple weeks back. Mr. Anderson gets an invite there. Bully Ray sitting in the back of the church. He cuts a promo on Anderson. They're further going with this evil, dark character of Bully Ray, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. I'm a huge Bully Ray fan. No bones about that. I enjoyed this promo thoroughly. He threatens to burn him again if Ken Anderson gets any closer. Tells Anderson to look into the casket, which it looked to me to be either baby clothes or diapers or both. I rewinded it back and looked a couple times. To me, it looked like in one hand he had baby clothes and towels, and the other hand it looked like clothing. They could have had a better, explanation, maybe a bag with the Pampers on it or whatever. But anyway, I digress. When he looks back, Bully Ray's gone. I really, really am enjoying the darkness that Bully Ray is bringing out. Much like a Kevin Sullivan in the past, much like we see with Bray Wyatt on WWE programming, these characters in wrestling have gone on since wrestling's been around, and I really enjoy that old school character is coming back, the old, just pure evil guy. And Bully Ray is bringing it back on TNA. Great segment. Great way to keep their feud going, which, again, there's some stuff on TNA I'm really enjoying, some stuff I'm really not. But with that said, we're going to go right into our ratings. If you've seen the show before, we have a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. 1's a Jesse Goddard, 2's an Garrett Bischoff, 3's a James Storm, 4's a Christopher Daniel, 5's a Bobby Roode. I'm giving the show a 2, a Garrett Bischoff. To me, there was more good stuff than bad, but the stuff that was bad outweighed the good, if you get what I'm saying. The bad portions of the show to me drug this show so far down that even the good segments didn't pull it back up. It really, and I hate to use this analogy because it's been used to death on TNA. TNA, this show reminded me of the last year of Monday Nitro and the horrible booking decisions that were made and the bad shows they used to put out. They would have glimmers of greatness on the show, but the whole show altogether sucked. That's what this reminded me of. There was glimmers of greatness and glimmers of hope, but as a whole, the show sucked. But basically, that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles. This has been another episode of Heel Heat.